Hey guys, this is Jay Lethal, the greatest first-generation wrestler, and you're listening to Interactive Radio.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com and YouTube. Today's guest is going to be somebody that you've been asking for a long time. We've been trying to get him on since the days of MySpace. But finally, we beat down Ring of Honor long enough to get him as our guest this week, and that is the former Black Machismo, the former ROH World Heavyweight Champion, the former ROH Television Champion, former ROH Pure Champion, former TNA X Division Champion 4 times over. He is Jay Lethal. Man, this is one hell of an interview. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. I'm not going to hold you up too long to do it, but I'm going to say something that I don't normally do. And what that is I watched Triple Mania. Triple Mania. And I saw Jeff Jarrett handing out tacos in his ring entrance and all the things that make Jeff Jarrett great, but apparently is erratic behavior. But I also saw the Rosemary incident with Sexy Star. Just wanted to say that's not okay. And I actually regret ever airing the Sexy Star commercial on this show. We only aired it once, but we aired it when we did the ODB interview to show, hey, watch Lucha Underground. They have women too, but not necessarily somebody who works professionally. Speaking of not working professionally, I wanted to actually take a shot at the commentary for some of these web shows. I'll include Triple Mania in there. They weren't that bad, but there were some parts in there where they clearly did not know the talent. And I think that is a prerequisite before you take a job as an announcer is tell me who's going to be on your card, jump on YouTube, look them up, figure out their moveset, what they call their moves. If you don't know, ask them, and be a professional announcer. Present it like you're trying to sell the show, because your job is essentially the leader of the infomercial that is the television product. I just don't understand how these guys don't get how to do this. So I'm telling you right now, if you're out there and you're looking for an announcer for your next iPay-per-view, send me an email. I'll do it. I'll research everybody that's going to be on your card, and I will do a better job than whoever you have doing it right now. Consider that an open challenge. I don't think anybody will accept it, mind you, but I'll do it if you ask me to. And if you want, I could even do the Mauro Ranallo voice. The DJ where you sound like you're about to throw up. The old school radio DJ. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it, but I will research your product and put a shine on it, which is what the job of the announcer is to do. I just don't get how so many people can call these shows using the term he. Did you see what he did? Did you see what it is? Look at that move. I don't know. What move are you talking about? Name it. Tell me its name. Tell me the guy who did its name. Give me some indication that you know who this guy is, so I should reserve in my memory who they are too. It's my rant for the show. Hope you guys enjoyed my little rant here. Check out this interview with Jay Lethal. Unbelievably grateful to Ring of Honor. Be sure and check out Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor on pay-per-view Friday night, September 22nd. Jay Lethal will be in action against Silas Young. Gonna be one hell of a fight.
This is Punishment Martinez from Ring of Honor. You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Come on!
Macho Man Randy Savage, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with me right now is a Ring of Honor superstar, former world champion, former television champion, the incredible Jay Lethal. Mr. Lethal, are you with us?
I am, and thanks for having me.
We're so glad to have you, Mr. Lethal. We've been trying to get you on the show since you've been doing the Black Machismo character over at...
By the way, you can just call me Jay. I don't think any... I don't really get the Mr. Lethal that often.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to say this. I wasn't going to say anything, but you and I have somewhat similar upbringing. I was raised in North Jersey just like you are, so I was raised right. You treat people with respect. Unless you say I can call you Jay, I'm going to call you Mr. Lethal. But if you say that, I'll call you Jay.
Well, thank you. I thank you, a fellow New Jerseyan. I don't even know if that's the proper term, but I'll use it anyway. Just Jay. Just Jay is fine.
All right. So here we are. We're heading into the pay-per-view on the 22nd. Looks like, based on what I saw recently, it looks like it might not have been announced yet, but we're pretty much heading into a rematch of War of the Worlds UK, and looks like you might be facing Silas Young at the pay-per-view. Are you looking forward to this coming pay-per-view?
I am. It has been announced that it will be Silas Young and myself in a last man standing match, which this will be my first ever last man standing match. So I'm a little excited, a little nervous. It's live on pay-per-view, so everyone always ups their game for pay-per-views just because it's like a wrestling tradition, you know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to my match at the pay-per-view.
Very good. You guys tore it down in the at the pay-per-view in the UK. I guess I wanted to ask you, what is it like working with Silas, and do you think that he's better than maybe the internet has ever given him credit for?
100%. That's an understatement. He is definitely better than he is given credit for. I hadn't met Silas Young until my second time back here, my second run in Ring of Honor, as they say. After I left Impact Wrestling and came back to Ring of Honor, there were new faces that I had to get to learn, and Silas Young was one of those guys that I had never met before my return. And in the ring, I got to tell you, he literally is one of the wrestlers that represents Ring of Honor well. In the ring, he's literally one of the best wrestlers in the world, and he plays the role. He plays it right, and I just love everything about him, even his look. He's even got a unique look, that mustache. That I love it. I love it. Sometimes I think he was born a little too late. For the wrestling business, he'd be a millionaire if he was born a few years earlier. But I think he's amazing in the ring.
Very good. Yep, definitely agree with you. The cool thing about watching a Ring of Honor pay-per-view is there's no downtime. There's no pee break, as they say. They're 100% match after match after match. You're left catching your breath, and you're just sitting in your armchair watching it. What do you think sets Ring of Honor away or apart from all the other wrestling shows that are on the air right now?
Well, you just mentioned it, the fact that there are no pee breaks or, this is the filler match, or because I really think in order to stand out, you got to eliminate that stuff. For Ring of Honor, it's not about the bells and whistles. It's not about this wrestler has the coolest entrance, like Bray Wyatt. I think he's got one of the coolest entrances ever. Cool song, you know. Yeah, not taking anything away from that aspect of wrestling. That is pretty cool, but we're not pumping the money into our entrances and lights that other companies do. So no reason to try and play to our weakness there. So we got to play to our strengths, which means we got to focus our product on the in-ring action. And we got to do that from the minute you start watching to the minute the episode ends. And it's the one thing that other companies don't do. And wrestling is called a soap opera. And the last thing you want to see from this program that claims to be new and innovative, last thing you want to see is the show starting out with someone in the ring with a microphone saying that someone stole his girlfriend when they were in the 3rd grade and he's going to get revenge and now the tables will be turned. No, we think the minute you turn on that program, we got to give you action to hook you and make you want to sit there and watch the entire show and not give you that match or that segment or that break that goes, okay, this is my chance to go pee. We want you to hold your pee until the show is over. You know what I mean? That's what really makes us, what really helps us stand out above the rest. Also, we have one of the greatest rosters currently going, and for years, Ring of Honor has always had one of the best rosters going, and the proof is actually in the pudding because other rosters constantly pluck from the Ring of Honor rosters for years. To make their roster better. I mean, just hypothetically look at the WWE. Most of their champions now and in the past, and most of their top stars, top guys, came through Ring of Honor at one point. So the proof is in the pudding there. So, I mean, those are the key reasons on why Ring of Honor is standing out and what makes us different from all the other wrestling companies out there.
Very cool. We recently interviewed fellow ROH roster member Will Ferrara, and he made a comment that actually kind of one of those things that kind of gets stuck in the back of your head, and you think about it after you talk about it. Maybe not when he said it, but later on you do. And it involved Impact Wrestling or Global Force Wrestling, and given the recent news that has been coming out about Global Force Wrestling and now the sale rumors have been all start all over again. I wanted to get your take on something. A lot of people compare ROH and GFW as it is now, TNA as it was. What's your take on their latest woes, and what is your take on the stance? Because, Will Ferrara and Punishment Martinez, they said that you guys are the number 2 company in the world, and it's hard to deny that when the other company is continually potentially going out of business.
That was my next, that's how I was going to answer your question there. We are, and I consider Ring of Honor to be the number 2 wrestling company in the world. And some people may take this the wrong way. They may take this out of context. So if someone hears this, please listen to the whole thing. But with the thought process that you are the number 2 wrestling company in the world, you really don't look under you to see what the number 3 wrestling company is doing. You look up to see what the number 1 wrestling company is doing so you can try to better yourself and not work down. That is in no way a knock on TNA. It's just a logical thinking, a logical way of thinking. Take out the company names out of the equation and just think of a company being number 2. They don't try to fix and compare themselves to the number 3. They try and look up and see what they can do different than from the company that's in the number 1 spot, and that's all I'm saying. So yeah, I figure I consider us to be the number 2 company in the world. With that said, I did work for Impact Wrestling at one point in time. I had a great time there. They gave me one of the greatest days of my life when I wrestled Ric Flair live on pay-per-view. To see that they're going through such hard times, I don't get joy from this. Although some people would think that my thought process would be like, yeah, this is what they get for letting me go. No. I made a lot of great friends, a lot of great relationships from working there, a lot of which some of those people are still there. Some people who I have great friendships with just joined the company. And it hurts to see them going through any down or bad times because as we all have learned, the better each wrestling company does, the better wrestling business as a whole does, and the more entertainment and options for the fans. So I really am saddened to hear every time I hear any bit of wrestling news, it's something negative about TNA or something that happened, unfortunate event, that does not please me in any way.
Very good. You mentioned a minute ago, it wasn't on my list of questions, but you mentioned they let you go. Was there ever a reason given? Because you were one of the hottest characters on the show at the time, and it just didn't really make any sense.
Again, not to talk negatively about them. I don't want this to be taken out of context. Like Jay Lethal says, they got rid of him for no reason, But there was honestly no reason given to me. Only speculation. There's a few things that I've speculated. One was they had already gotten rid of my buddy Sanjay Dutt, and they were already trying to make some budget cuts for guys who were their contracts. When they renew it, you get a little bump, and they were trying to limit those bumps. So I was next on line. There's that. I also heard rumor that Dixie's mom at the time came into the office because too much money was being spent, and she made cuts. And I heard that that's how I was let go then. I also heard that at the time Jeff Jarrett was trying to start up this new wrestling company called NASCAR. It was some kind of tie-in to NASCAR. And legally, the guys that worked on that show couldn't legally work for Impact. So I was told that was a reason. I heard rumor of that was a reason. I was like, and that one kind of made sense to me because shortly after being released, I was contacted by Jeff Jarrett to work on this NASCAR-related show. But no, never was I given a direct answer. But either way, they say things happen for a reason, and one door closes, another one opens. Everything they allowed me to do in the company helped prepare me for everything that I would get to do in Ring of Honor. For instance,
yes,
lead the roster as the world champion, be known as the world champion of a company.
I was going to ask
who
you
is recognized, who's recognized around the world for its wrestling and that's one of the highlights of my career right there.
Yep, and we were going to circle back to that, but I'll ask it now. You kind of brought
I'm sorry,
an old.
Just keep rambling. You give me a question, and I'll take it in 20 different directions.
You brought an old school style with the ring robe and the promos, and just an old school style to the persona with new school athleticism when you were the world champion of Ring of Honor, and it really stood out. And your title reign, you main evented so many major pay-per-views that they had with that championship belt, to the point where you almost had run through the roster. They almost ran out of people to put you in front of. So, I mean, my question would be, how did you enjoy the time on top of their ROH?
Oh my
hill?
gosh, I loved it. And it's a sick reason that I loved it. And here's the reason: it's because you got guys on the roster like the Young Bucks and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And those guys are, you put them on a show and they should be in the main event. But they're not. They're in match 3, 4, 5, 6, and you have to follow them. It's so nerve-wracking. But because you're the world champion, you got to dig down deep and deliver something as entertaining or better than everything that they just saw, which will drive you crazy, because it did drive me crazy for some events. But the fact that I had to dig down deep and pull out something to make people go, oh, well, the world title match was good, but this match was better. I'd never wanted to hear that. I always wanted to leave thinking, wow, what a main event. And that really makes you pull something extra out of yourself that you didn't even know existed. So I enjoyed those moments where I was able to leave the ring thinking, wow, I can't believe I just followed all those amazing matches. And that's one hardest part about being a wrestler on the Ring of Honor roster. Our roster is filled with literally the greatest wrestlers in the world. So you got to keep up or you got to get out. You know what I mean?
Most intelligent, too. I've not yet spoken, and I'm saying this not to be sarcastic at all, but I've spoken to some wrestlers that might not be minds of Mensa, but I've spoken to other wrestlers from Ring of Honor who are really, really intelligent and just know the craft. I'd never spoken to anybody from this roster that I thought, that guy would probably not do too well on an IQ test. These guys are really, really smart.
Oh, thanks. I don't know why you said that, and he's a smart guy, but when you said that, wrestling's about a lot of imagery. And when you said that, the first person that came to mind, and bless his heart, was Beer City Bruiser, just because of the way he looks, just fits exactly what you just said. But Beer City, there's no way am I calling Beer City Bruiser anyway. He's a smart guy, but he looks the part of one who wouldn't be as intelligent.
There you go. All right, taking a quick step back, one of the biggest interviews I ever did, and it's still one of my highest honors, it's up there with having children, was I randomly, when I was getting involved in this whole doing interviews thing, was given Randy Savage's phone number, and it happened to be...
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it happened to be the same exact time that he was starting to do his own training thing. It didn't last long. He was a little ahead of the curve with the machoman.com thing. And we ended up having a 30-minute interview. It was amazing. This blew my mind, and he complimented me after it, and it stuck with me for all these years. You said in a recent interview that while you were doing the Black Machismo character in TNA that you had a chance to speak to Macho about it. What did he have to say about it?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't ask him too much about it because, and this is a interesting story here, I had worked a few shows. I'd wrestled for a few shows run by a man named Ed Schumann. And Ed Schumann would always tell me, I'm friends with the Macho Man. I'm friends with Randy Savage and his brother Lanny. They'd like you to talk. They'd like you to call him. He saw some of your stuff on YouTube, and he thought it was interesting. Now, I didn't know Ed Schumann that long, and Ed Schumann actually passed away. But I didn't know him that long. Needless to say, I didn't really trust him because I figured, sure, there's a lot of pranks played in wrestling. He's trying to try to get me on the phone with someone who does a good Randy Savage impression just like myself, trying to trick me to think that that's him so I can ask some stupid questions, you know what I mean? So I didn't believe him. And every time that I would get to his show, he would say, hey, Randy Savage told me that you didn't call him. Like, he really wants to talk to you. And I didn't believe him. I really didn't. So as luck would have it, during the peak of my Black Machismo era, I was on a show for this wrestling promotion called Pro Wrestling Syndicate.
And they put me in a match. Lanny, correct?
Yes, they put me in a match against Lanny. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I remember he was talking to my parents. He gave them 2 of his books. And I remember pulling him aside, and I said, I'm this guy named Ed Schumann. I've worked for him several times. He keeps telling me he knows you and the Macho Man, and he wants me to call, but I don't believe him. Is this true? And he said, oh, yeah, we know Ed, but I don't know if Randy told him to call. When I get home, I'll check. So when he said he knew Ed Schumann, then I was like, oh, no, this could be legit. So then when he got home, literally the next day in my email was an email from Lanny saying, yeah, that was really Randy. He wanted you to call him. Here's his number. So I call him, and right away I'm a fan now. A fan is getting to call his idol. And you could tell that I was interrupting him. I guess I was calling at weird points. And he wouldn't really say much. He'd always go, is that right? He'd say that after everything. Is that right? So the conversations would really last maybe 2-3 minutes, because then he'd say, me and my girl about to go eat or something, So I didn't really get to talk to him much. 2 conversations I had, and both times weren't good times because he kind of got me off the phone within 2 minutes. But had I known or believed that Ed Schumann was telling the truth, I would have called him a long time ago. But Lanny did tell me, he is a fan of your current character that you're playing. He doesn't watch it on TV, but somehow he saw some things on YouTube, and he was a big fan of it. And that was as far as it went. So I never got to talk to him about his thoughts, but Lanny told me that he actually enjoyed the character.
So a few years ago, they released a Sting DVD in the WWE, and they accidentally used a picture of Jeff Farmer, who did the fake Sting as the NWO character, on the cover, which, whoops, recall time. And when they released them,
I didn't know that.
That's true. It's true, yeah.
Whoa.
when they released the Macho DVD, they used a picture that, it was a darker picture, and you could have told me it was you, and I would have believed it. So when they first released it, I was like, that's Jay Lethal. I wonder if they know that isn't a picture of Jay Lethal.
I have that DVD. That is not me.
Okay, I know. I just I chuckled when I first saw him. Like that, they could easily have said that's Jay Lethal, and anybody would believe it. Yeah.
Is that true about the Sting DVD?
Yeah, they had to recall the first set. In fact, I picked it up just because of it. It was not the front picture; it was the back picture. But it was a picture of him doing the Stinger splash, and I thought that was hysterical.
Wow, that's oh my
All right,
goodness.
so I'll promise to you about 20 minutes. I've gone a little over that. I'll try and wrap up with just a few more questions. But one of my favorite segments of all time, you arguing with Ric Flair, having the woo-a-thon, and it was just the most priceless entertainment. My kid and my wife would parodying it when we're starting to get ready for dinner. I mean, that's how funny it was. We just loved it. Do you think they got everything they could have out of you and the Nature Boy?
I don't think so. Speaking of that promo, I'll tell you why. I'll answer that comment in a second. I'll go into more detail. But that whole stint with Flair was probably the scariest moment of my life. And here's why. I was never, ever in TNA given a chance to, first of all, cut a live promo, but in the middle of the ring with a live microphone. I was never, ever given this opportunity. So I was doing the Black Machismo character, and all my promos or interviews were done backstage. And even if I didn't say the right word or the right thing, it didn't really matter so much because it was more of a comedic role, and I could get away with it. So never did I have to do more than one take as my Machismo character. But this Flair thing possibly could require a couple takes, but they didn't care. They put me in the middle of the ring for the very first time, not knowing how I could do or what would happen, with a live microphone. It's like, we didn't trust you before, but now that Flair wants to do this program with you, we have 100% confidence in you, which was so nerve-wracking. Then you put on top of that, I have to go and battle back and forth on the microphone with someone who is considered to be the greatest promo guy in the history of this business. And that made it the scariest moment of my life, all of the times that I had to be face-to-face. And I remember being so nervous one time while holding the microphone, my hands went completely numb. And let's circle back around to answer my comment of no, I don't think that they got everything they could have out of me versus Flair. And not many people know this, and I don't really understand why the answer was no, but shortly after my second match with Ric Flair, which was a hardcore match, and I remember within 2 minutes he was in his underwear and bleeding all over the place, which I appreciated. After that match, Ric Flair had a stable called Fortune. It was him and AJ Styles and Nigel McGuinness and Kazir Wright. At the time, right after that match, Tommy Dreamer was creating his own stable to rival their group, and he had requested me being in that group, and they told him no. And the only reason I found this out was Tommy came to me and said, I don't really understand. You're in this program with Ric Flair, and it would be perfect if you're in my group because you could go against him again, but they told me no. So I really didn't understand why the answer was no. I don't even think that they know that even got back to me. But yeah, I definitely think there could have been more, especially if they let me join that group with Tommy Dreamer that was going to rival the Ric Flair group.
Might seem like a silly thing, but you did a segment backstage that had me marking out as a kid. I wasn't a kid, but thinking back to when I was a kid, when you were with Hulk Hogan and you did the whole Mega Powers super handshake.
Yeah.
Was that cool to work with Hulk?
Oh, man, it was amazing. He's got a great Macho Man impression.
He does.
Almost better than mine, I think. But, yeah, it was a surreal moment standing next to him for the first time, getting to meet him. I did a little thing with him in the center of the ring where after my match he came out, and I think he made the match with me against Ric Flair, if I remember correctly. But, yeah, getting to work with him was all I could think of was, man, when this airs on TV, my brothers are going to be watching me interact with the same people that we watched growing up. When my dad would order those wrestling pay-per-views for us, it was, in my head, that's all I could think of, you know. So sometimes I get lost in that moment instead of, wow, I'm getting to meet Hulk Hogan or I'm getting to meet Ric Flair. I'm thinking about what happens when my brothers see this at home.
All right. So you had an awesome run as ROH World Champion. We discussed that a little bit. Was there anybody, because like I said, you kind of ran through the roster. I mean, it felt like we were going through round 2 a little bit after you had beat everybody. I guess my question would be, who's left on the ROH roster that you're really looking forward to getting in there with?
That's a great question. I am not a tag team specialist. If I was, my answer would be the Young Bucks. But as a singles guy, I wouldn't be able to do it. But they would be definitely on the top of the list. They're not only are they red hot right now, but I'm really good friends with them. And I think in the ring, they're you know, a lot of people think that sometimes they do a little too much, but I honestly think, you know, because wrestling changes with the times, they are of my generation, and I'm not that old, so of my generation, they are the tag team, the best tag team of my generation. Because wrestling changes with the times, I really feel like the Bucks are the tag team of my generation. So they'd be on the top of the list, but I'm always ready to get in there with anybody. You know, some of the younger guys that, you know, younger card guys that I probably wouldn't get to be in the ring with too often are guys like Will Ferrara. I'd love to be in the ring with him, but I think on the top of that list would be the Young Bucks. So in order for that to happen, I need a partner, which is also coincidentally one of the only things I haven't done in the company. I've won every belt except for the tag titles, even the pure title when it was around. I had. So the tag titles are the only belts that I've never had.
All right, so that's looking pretty cool. You mentioned the first wave. This will be one of the last questions. You mentioned that the first wave of ROH talent, and one of those guys actually in an interview, I think it might have been with Sports Illustrated, Samoa Joe, said that you're one of the guys that he wants to see in the WWE ring. There's always rumors. You've always said that you've never been contacted by WWE directly, but do you have any desire to work in the WWE?
Well, let's clear that up. Samoa Joe is a big bully, and he just wants me on the same roster he is so he can make me carry his bags. Just a joke. Joe is he's amazing. But no, I've very, very, very limited conversations with anybody from the WWE, neither which were led to anything major or anything of any kind of promise, and mainly because, to be honest, I'm extremely happy about where I am right now. I think every wrestler has different goals or what they think making it is in wrestling. And therefore that'll make you pursue certain options more than others. Right now, I am extremely happy with everything that I've gotten to do in the wrestling business, which makes me extremely happy about where I am currently now, that being Ring of Honor. But yeah, to answer your question, there has been very limited talks sporadically throughout my career, but nothing to where the talks didn't go beyond a little question or half an email here or a few years back. Nothing to the point where I'd say, yeah, I've had conversation with them, because the few snippets that I've gotten aren't enough to say that I had a conversation with any of them. That's the way I perceive it anyway.
All right. Before I let you go, I noticed that you threw out the first pitch at a Tampa Bay Rays game.
Yeah.
Had to be an honor.
Yeah.
Was that cool?
It was, and not only was that a little nerve-wracking, because, before you do that, you kind of hear horror stories about awful first pitches, and then you get to YouTube and you watch a bunch of people throw really bad first pitches, and you don't want to be them, and you don't want to get added to that list.
The
and
slow
you don't
rollers
want to be
to
on
the plate, that kind of thing.
Right. And you don't want to be on Sports Center with them making fun of you on ESPN. Although, I mean, you know, they say most publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad or good. But yeah, that was really cool. I remember thinking, wow, this is celebrities do this, you know? Then I'm getting to do this. This is something celebrities do. I remember thinking that. But yeah, that was really cool. And they gave me a jersey and everything, which my dad has, and he refuses to let go. So I guess I don't have a jersey. My dad does.
There you go. And you guys,
he's my biggest fan.
If you are in Tampa, I just want to wish you guys the best of luck with Irma looming around the corner.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the pay-per-view. Death Before Dishonor coming up here on September 22nd, Friday night. Looks like it's going to be one heck of a show. Before I let you go, one last favor can I ask of you?
Give it to me.
Would you mind giving me a promo, just saying this is Jay Lethal and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio?
Sure.
All right, and I'll count you down in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey guys, this is Jay Lethal, the greatest first-generation wrestler, and you're listening to Interactive Radio.
Yo, maniacs, this is Hulk Hogan, the greatest of all time, and you're listening to The Blaze. So what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan in Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
The workout never stops. It never gets easier. You're not born with rock-hard abs. You're not born with the ability to jump off the top rope. This is Lucha Underground. You have to earn everything with hard work and sweat.
Johnny Mundo on Lucha Underground. New episode Wednesday at 8 p.m. on El Rey Network.
Sponsored by Cricket Wireless. Something to smile about.